This footage, released by Corrective Services, is an example of the tense environment prisoners can face. Life inside often leaves inmates isolated from their families and society, but one radio program is hoping to change that.
It's anonymous, it provides information, it's support, it's intimate, and also you can do stuff while listening to radio.
Kate Pinnock is the producer of Jailbreak, a program on 2SCR Community Radio. It's made for and partly by the prison community. She says the program delivers important health messages for prisoners, but that it also gives them a voice to tell their stories.
Stories that are never heard, stories that are unbelievably amazing.
My life began born in Hornsby Hospital in 1965. I've got an older brother, 3 years my senior, and I have a memory of my father telling me that when they brought me home, my parents brought me home from the hospital, that my brother at age 3 came over and looked in the bassinet and said, "I don't like him, take him back." And I held on to that we've always had a little bit of a uncomfortability between us. And as I progressed through life and I became the black sheep and he was the white-haired boy.
Bruce is a former prisoner with one of these stories. Like many, his began with a difficult childhood.
My father had a lot of control and power issues. There was some violence. There was a lot of arguments between him and my mother, and then we would end up peripherally involved in that. I was bent over the bed, my pants were pulled down and he grabbed his belt and he strapped my ass until I cried. And then he informed the school and he had me marched up in front of the classroom, and I was presented in front of all of the other students as I'm a criminal and I'm no good. And I tried to commit suicide when I was less than 10 years of age. I had a fascination for electricity at a very young age, and I pulled my study lamp away from the wardrobe that it was set in and disconnected the wires from it and wrapped them around each ends of my feet and plugged the power point in and turned it on, hoping that I was going to die. Plates flying down the hallway, him chasing me down the hallway with a pair of plumber's Stilsons in his hand and me just ducking quick enough that it went through the wardrobe. That sort of thing is how I grew up, walking around on eggshells.
After a turbulent time in high school, Bruce got an apprenticeship. But his growing addiction to alcohol and gambling forced him to leave. With no sense of purpose or a source of money, Bruce was eventually caught for stealing and sent to remand at Long Bay Correctional Complex.
That scarred me, that whole experience. I'd have to say I was never the same. The things that I saw in there, I saw people die in that yard at Long Bay. If you didn't pay your debts in those days, you got killed. They didn't muck around. And I think just the stress of having to be hyper vigilant and alert 24/7. I came out and it was only a matter of months before I started suicide attempts.
What was wrong?
And I just felt like my life was over. I'd lost my apprenticeship, I've got a criminal record, I felt the emotional and the mental scars of the prison, of the environment that I'd been in, and I didn't want to go on.
The trauma Bruce felt is not uncommon. Brett Collins advocates for prisoner rights and is the coordinator of Justice Action. He says the experience of prison can further ostracize people.
It is counterproductive. If you deal with young children and you deal with them in the same way, what you end up having is people who can no longer fit in the community, who lose the very strengths that they have in the community, their families around them, their opportunity for a future. They end up seeing themselves as being prisoners forever.
My brother said, "You're not staying here." And he drove me up to Hornsby railway station and got $200 out of his bank account and gave me $200 and said, "On your bike, see you later."
For Bruce, this isolation led him into a vicious cycle of heroin addiction, homelessness and crime. Although he returned to prison numerous times, he says the tools for reform simply weren't there.
Not once did I see an advertisement or a flyer or a notice board saying there's an AA or an NA meeting or there's counselling.
There's an opportunity for corrective services, inverted commas, to mean what its name says. For that $1 billion a year in New South Wales, $3 billion right, across the nation, to be spent positively instead of negatively.
A spokesperson for the Department of Corrective Services New South Wales says that they provide over 30 different programs inside their correctional centres, in addition to psychological counselling and access to welfare officers. The spokesperson also says that the department actively supports and facilitates the Jailbreak Radio program, though we've learnt that they've expressed their disapproval of this story to Kate Pinnock and that they've asked her not to contact us any further.
Well, it's there are rules that are easy. So, for example, you're not allowed to criticise I'm not allowed to criticise a department. I can generally criticise a system, but not specifically a department. That's pretty easy. But then my absolute line that I draw are being an advocate for my listeners who are vulnerable people who are listening in jail. Welcome, Bruce, back onto the program.
Hi, thanks Kate, and hi everyone who's listening. It's nice to be here with you. Keep yourself safe, think of your partners for when you're going to go home, and there will be coming that day soon enough. And I hope
Bruce's answer has been in non-government programs. Eventually, he broke his cycle of recidivism with the help of groups like Alcoholics Anonymous and the Community Restorative Centre, as well as with the support of other mentors like Kate Pinnock. Life for Bruce today has completely transformed.
I just finished my TAFE course. I've received my diploma in community services in July, just a few months ago. And last Monday I got an email from the Deputy CEO of my organisation to say that we're so pleased with you that we'd like to put you on permanent full-time. So I'm now a permanent full-time employee. And I've just moved house. And after 7 years in the last place, which was very hot and noisy and so on, and I've now moved to exactly where we are today, which is nice and cool, and it's very quiet, and it's clean, and I'm happy to say that I woke up this morning clean and sober, as it has been for 4 years and 8 months. I've got a relationship with my mum and my brother now like what never was before. He invited me over and he said, I've got this push bike here which I never ride, would you like it? And I'm riding out of his garage, and he was at the door and he was looking at me, and I said, you know what's different? I said, you know and I know that this is not going to the hock shop. That's why you gave it to me. He goes, yeah, because you're not looking at life through rose-coloured glasses anymore. And I went, he knows more than I do. He's so smart. And I'll get on the bike every morning and ride around Sydney Harbour. Like for 2 hours in the morning around Sydney Harbour, I think I'm living the dream. And today when I told my friend that, one of my mentors, I said, I'm living the dream. He goes, well, you want to get another one? Because you already got that sorted.